Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here in your presence to conduct the city's business. We pray that you guide us in those decisions. Let them be made with wisdom and with the minds and the hearts of our community in mind. Lord, we just ask that you place a hedge of protection around our police and fire and other first responders as well as our business. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Call to order the special city council meeting of April 6, 2026. Allie, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Miss Amy.
J.P. Hodges, Lane Tubbs, Allie Sugg,
Here.
Amy Bader,
Here.
Louis Short,
Here.
Pete Harris,
Here.
Chris Foster, Andy Eklund,
Here.
Mayor,
Here.
Rebecca Prince.
Here.
Any press?
He's not here today. Okay, unfinished business. We have CDs. I have some rates. We could do a 3-month for 4.2%. Carrie, can you, never mind, I might do this right. We had the 6-month at 4.1 and the 12-month at 3.9.
Well, I seen a check on the general fund savings, and so it actually, gave me like that rate. They did give me a rate of the current rate would be 3.10, and that is the savings formula that they use, and the current would be 3.10. So I know it's 2.07, I believe. Current, so if they want to do it,
So that would be moving the rest of the savings into that also, or keeping the savings separate? This is another account?
the general fund savings is already passed.
Right.
So this is just to see what they would give us as a rate if they would adjust our rate at all. So if we want to move the fees that are due into that, we go to auction check. When we talk about,
Right, the 600 that was in there,
it's
is
still there.
but it's gonna increase from 2.07 to 3.1?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so it's just whether we wanna put the CD money in there into the reserve fund or whatever.
The fees that are due or not due, the general fund savings.
Gotcha.
What was the 6-month rate again?
4.1?
Yes.
3 months was 4.
0.2.
But it's pulling interest on a larger amount in the savings.
And there were 4, correct? Well,
There
'cause
were for the one.
two were street, one we were cashing in for the street truck.
With one street.
Okay. Right. In the general fund ones? So I would suggest that the street one, we do, I would suggest rolling it into another CD.
How many months?
Let me look at the other CDs. There's one of the other two, so we still have the other 2 street, they roll off in October. So I would say do the 12 months for the other street CD, since we have 2 other street CDs coming off in October.
Okay, and that'll be at the 3.9.
Yeah. And the 2 general funds. Look at the rest of the general fund. 2 more of those are coming off in October. And due in September. So we're trying to increase our reserve. I'd say we roll both of those into the 3.1 general fund savings, increase our reserve account. So you may make one motion for all of that?
I think it needs to be separate, but I'd also like to add that we'll have to move banks,
Okay.
and Eagle Bank may like the opportunity to weigh in on that before we close that account.
The other two are, okay, so there'll still be two at Eagle Bank that roll off in October. And then there's two at First Arkansas that roll off in September. The First Arkansas ones are bigger
There's 4 at Eagle Bank.
right now.
5 on the Florida side. So we have 8 total.
Well, are you gonna open up a savings account at Eagle Bank? Like, what do you mean?
Well, they like to be competitive, and they want to keep our business.
I know,
mean,
but
just
we're
like any
moving
bank.
it into a savings account, not
Right.
another CD. So, what are you talking about asking Eagle Bank to do?
Just what their options would be. Maybe they could up the rate of the CD, or, I mean, it's ultimately up to you guys.
Yeah, and is that fair now that we put that rate out there? That's
Good question.
that we're I mean, I don't know how that usually works, but I wouldn't think that's fair to go to Eagle Bank and say, I don't know, maybe that's how you do it.
I mean, they were paying us a better rate on the CDs than what we were doing before,
But you're
we're-
wanting to put
but
it in
we're
the
trying
reserve
to
account.
increase the reserve account,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what, I'm just saying it's not really the same thing. It's
Okay.
just, we're saying, hey, we want it in our reserve account instead of a CD account. But,
Okay, well, let's do 2 motions then. Let's do the street CDs for the 12, and then after that, do the general fund to move to the other.
So I will make a
do we still
motion.
have accounts with them?
With Eagle Bank?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
We'll have 4 other CDs, and
Okay.
then our, the other street.
Yeah, so it's not like we're moving all of our business, it's.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I will make a motion that the other street CD is renewed at a 12-month rate
At Eagle Bank.
at Eagle Bank.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Andy?
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay, Miss Amy?
Ally Sugg,
Yes,
Amy Bader,
Yes.
Andy Eklund,
Yes.
Pete Harris,
Yes.
Louis Short.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now I'll make a motion that the two Eagle Bank General Fund CDs that are terming out, maturing the 15th of this month, be cashed in, and that funds deposited into our general fund savings account to increase our city reserve funds.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Miss Amy?
Louis Short,
Yes.
Pete Harris,
Yes.
Ally Sugg,
yes,
Amy Bader,
Yes.
Andy Eklund.
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, our new business, bond update. Mr. Michael McBride is here to walk us through this. Michael?
Good to see everybody. Again, my name is Michael McBride. I'm with Stevens Inc. We served as underwriter on the sales and use tax bond transaction. I believe I was in front of you kind of giving a very similar presentation sometime last year. Really just wanted to come and take the time, kind of walk you through some information, but really, I'm here to answer questions, here to discuss, anything you'd like to about your bonds. I think what's important first, or what I'd like to do, is just kind of get a baseline of information so we're all talking on the same page. But if you'll look at the presentation for me, on page 5, we look at your sales tax collections. And so one of the first things we need to kind of understand and look at is how these bonds were set up, right? So they were pledged to the collections of a 0.625% sales tax levied throughout the entirety of the city. What you can see here is these bonds were issued in 2021, and on the top part of that page of page 5, you'll see what the collections were. It's about $1.42 million when we issued those bonds. The way they are set up is after administration fees are paid, which are trustee banks, the bank that helps handle these funds, after they're paid, all the money that's collected through that tax goes to the repayment of the debt. So you have your annual payment, semi-annual, but you make those payments, and then anything left over goes and redeems the long end of the transaction. So as this tax has grown, and as you can see in the past 12 months, it's almost up to $1.7 million, it continues to shorten up the life of the actual financing. So it's something to update you on, on a pretty regular basis, and it's what we make sure your, city administration is aware of. But, if you look at your bonds, you've had some growth in your tax, and so page 6 gives you an update on those sales tax bonds. So if you will recall, we issued these bonds in 2 series, a Series A and a Series B. The reason there were 2 series was because we did a series that was taxable and a series that was tax exempt. And the reason we're referring to it is that it's the holders of the bonds. It's what they receive. So when you have a tax exempt bond, when you receive an interest payment, you don't pay taxes. So it's a tax exempt. You're, as an entity, tax exempt, but it's the holder or the investor in the bonds that we're referring to here. So you have the taxable portion and the tax exempt. Why did we do that? Well, we did an advance refunding of your old bonds. So because rates were so low during COVID and coming out of COVID, we were actually able to refinance your old bond issue early and pay them off with a taxable component. And also the work that we did on the Parks project, Friday Eldridge and Clark, your bond counsel, was concerned there might be some tax status issues with that because you were dealing with the Corps of Engineer. And so because rates were so low, it was really a very minimal change to the actual rates. So we did those as taxable as well. So you have the taxable and the tax exempt. That's why there's the A and B. But if you'll remember, it was just one big bond issue with 2 separate entities separated out. So it wasn't really like we did 2 different bond issues. There's just 2 different series of bond issues with that. So when we sold these bonds, the initial repayment term on the longer end of the transaction was 26 years. So that was your Bs, and the As were out 20 years. The Bs are paying off first. So although we issued over $5 million in 21, we've gotten that principal payment down to almost or just under 1.7 million. So each 6 months, your trustee bank is running a calculation to see how much additional monies is available, and then they're calling that extra principal each time. So we now project that those bonds with an initial stated repayment term of 26 years will actually be paid in full in 2027. Your A's will then receipt all of those excess funds as soon as the B's pay off, and so when you start clicking at it that way, we would project that those would pay off in 2032. So much, much shorter, which was the initial design of this, right? We don't ever project the growth because we don't want to give investors a false narrative. We may have grown at this, but things can change. So obviously it wasn't as good of a picture when we initially stated this, but with your continued growth, it continues to look even better and better for this tax to pay off sooner and sooner. That being said, these bonds have an optional redemption date of 6/1/2028. So just like you did in 21, before that time period, you have the opportunity to go back to voters and extend the tax if you would like to do additional construction projects. So it does not have to occur in 2028. With the way elections work now, it may be something you could do in late 27 for the bonds to be sold in 28, or you could do it at any point thereafter as long as, the tax doesn't pay off before you've called the election. If you look below, you will see the breakdown of the approximate, and I rounded it for you, but the approximate amount of construction funds for each construction project. If you'll remember, with sales tax bonds, it's done what we refer to as cafeteria style. So for each project, there's a different question. And so each question has its own account. And so as you can see here, Parks and Rec, $4,085,000, drainage, 3.195. If you will recall, when we sold these bonds, there was the discussion of the spend down requirements with the IRS. And so, and this is not uncommon, you are not the only ones, but it is my understanding there are still monies left in those accounts. So we do need to make sure as a council that those are continued to be spent down. That is something that is very important. We saw a lot of issuers have this problem coming out of COVID. Projects just couldn't get done because there weren't supplies. It delayed these projects. But again, I think, as I said when I was here last time, I would really encourage y'all as a council to make sure that those funds are spent. It does sound like there is a lot of process, a lot of work going into that, so I'm not saying anything to that nature, but it is important that you do get these monies spent. So that is really a pretty good overview on those sales tax bonds. I'm happy to answer questions on that.
Because we're waiting on this FEMA grant.
It is very, look, it's a challenge, it's
Yeah.
frustrating. And as we've discussed before, we're documenting, if questions were ever to come up of why this happened. Really the way the rule is written is you need to have, when you issue the bonds, you need to have a reasonable understanding that you'll spend it within 3 years, right? At the time of the issuance, I think we all had a very reasonable understanding that they would be done within 3 years. Things happen, and so that's what we need to document and make sure that if it were ever to come in question, that we have that and we can show why. Because look, you are not the only ones that are having this problem. This is not an uncommon. It's not ideal. I'm not saying that. But as long as we're making sure that we're documenting and explaining why this has happened, I think it's very reasonable to understand why. The other thing with this transaction is arbitrage rebate. So you may or may not have heard some discussion on that. We've discussed this before, and it is very common with bonds that were issued in this time frame. Why is that? So what is arbitrage rebate? Why will you probably be seeing a letter from your accountant about this? So the federal government does not want you to issue bonds at a certain interest rate and invest the money that you receive on constructions at a higher interest rate. So you receive these construction funds at a point in which interest rates were extremely low. That's why we did it when we did it, because we were able to borrow quite a bit of money at very low interest rates. However, since then, short-term rates and rates in general have really increased. So we have our baseline interest rate that we issued at. Well, when we issued, all the other rates were really low. But since then, we've had rates go up. So we're actually earning more on our construction funds than the yields on the bonds. It doesn't count for your taxable bonds, so you can remove that. But all the other, the funds that were sitting in an account that we're now earning more, and the federal government does not want you to yield restrict in those first 3 years. So you were doing what you were supposed to be doing, but you were gaining more interest than interest you were paying back. So that is an arbitrage event. And so you will look at needing to rebate the arbitrage back to the federal government. The good news is you have those funds in the account. They have not been spent. You've been preparing for this. And two, if you did not, you could also use tax collections to rebate. So it is money that has been generated that you have, and it is money that the federal government will want back. Does that make sense?
It does. Is that all paid at one time, once everything is zeroed out, or when does that happen?
The calculation is required to be run every 5 years. You have hired landmark CPAs to handle that calculation. They run it early, So that's why you're hearing about it now, is so that once you get to that 5-year mark, you can start. Now, since you have the money, you may want to just pay it all. I believe you could discuss, and I'm getting a little bit out of my lane here, you could discuss with Landmark how that repayment could look. It may be that you could pay it over installments. I'm not sure. But you do have the funds from my discussions with your administration. You have the funds available. So that's not the issue. It's just making sure that you are aware of it and that you process it appropriately.
Which one of the funds is that? Is that the tax bond fund, the debt service reserve?
So all of those are run as a different calculation. Your debt service reserve fund would have a calculation run. Your Parks and Rec was done as taxable, so that one is exempt. So then you would be looking at drainage, streets, fire, streetscapes, and sidewalks. Landmark is going to run a calculation for each one of those funds.
So it has to be paid out of that specific fund?
So I think that would be the most clean. But again, there are some issuers that get in this situation and they do not have the money available, and those monies can be paid out of tax collections.
Right.
So, yes, and does that make sense? So I'm trying to say, like,
I was
yes,
just
but
wondering if
also.
one of those categories that we have
Mhm.
in our bond accounts was specifically set up for that. Because two of them are sales use and tax bond fund and debt service reserve.
So the
They're
debt
not earmarked for another project, so
Yeah,
that
so,
I know of.
No, okay, perfect question. So your debt service reserve fund is a rainy day fund of cash that just sits there.
Okay?
It was issued to give investors additional confidence in the transaction.
Okay?
So coming out of COVID, there was a lot of fear for what happens if something with sales taxes go away. So we added a reserve fund for the marketability of the transaction.
Okay?
That money just sits there and is utilized on the last payment of the bonds.
Okay?
The debt service fund, and I know this is confusing, the debt service fund is really just a pass-through account that the trustee is operating. Your sales tax monies flow into it,
Okay?
and your payments flow out,
Gotcha.
and that's where they're also going to run the calculation of, here's the money left over that we can utilize to pay off principal early. So it's more of a pass-through account where the others are construction fund accounts sitting there, or the debt service fund, which is that rainy day fund that I was talking about.
Gotcha.
So the debt service account, there's no calculation run on that because that's tax collections coming in and out.
Right.
That's not bond money. The debt service reserve account is bond money sitting there. That is also run on calculation.
Okay.
So once you get all of your construction funds spent, Landmark is really going to only look at your debt service reserve fund every 5 years. So it's much, much smaller, much less of something you need to be worried about. Does that kind of clear that up on what, I may or may not have heard these things, but just wanted to make sure that was clear.
But so,
Anything above the bond yield. So everything you made less the bond yield is yours to keep. But anything above the bond. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But if you remember when we issued these, CDs were like 0.7%. So, it looks at it, it's not just if you went over the bond yield one day and you owe that amount of money. It looks at it as an aggregate and weights it. So if you were earning less for the first several months and then you start earning over, it's not the entirety of the amount you were over. And Landmark could give you a much better description than I'm giving you of how the calculation would run. But so obviously I'm not a CPA, but that's in general how it would work. That's a pretty good synopsis on your sales and use tax bonds. Your water and sewer bonds are on the next page. And this just gives you a general idea of the two bond issues that are outstanding with the water and sewer. Very low interest rates on those as well. You can see the principal amount that's outstanding on page 7. We also look at a comparable of your revenues from your 2025 audited financials. to your payment. And you can see that on page 8. So we refer to them as RADs, revenues available for debt service. And that number there is, by our calculation, 2.529. That pulls in depreciation and interest income, as well as the revenues over expenditure. That's how we're arriving at that number. That is the standard number that bond investors look at when they're looking at determining, the viability of purchasing a transaction. So your coverage is about 1.8 times, which is pretty healthy. I don't think it is overly healthy by any means, but I think investors would find that to be a coverage that is acceptable. So really good to see that. You can see your 21s pay off in fiscal year 42, and your 19s go out to 45. So still, in the grand scheme of things with debt, although it is relatively new issuance, it is still, you're not extremely long on those debts. The 19s are what we refer to as currently callable. So again, that call date that we were just referring to on the sales tax bonds, those became callable in 24. Your 21s will become callable towards the end of this year. So again, it is just an option to redeem. So even though those bonds are past their call date, nothing happens unless the city decides to do so. So it is an optional redemption date. Happy to answer any questions on any of that as well. If there aren't any, just a general market update. I think a lot of us have seen, what's happening with oil prices, with the conflict in Iran, and that has started to see some effect on, obviously, muni rates. At the beginning of this year, though, we were down substantially, so much so that even the bounce back coming through the conflict has really not put us where I would consider rates being extremely high. We're seeing 30-year transactions still getting done at the 4.5, 460 range. So still for historical levels, very, very low. So still a decent time to enter the market. Not that that's something you're thinking about doing, just to give you a real general overview of what that would look like. Happy to answer any questions. Obviously, all my contact information is on the first page of this presentation. So if you ever need anything from me, or if you're reviewing the remainder of this presentation and have questions, happy to address them. Call me, email me, text me, whatever works best for you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any more questions? I do have some of those calculations from Landmark, and I can send, we have this email, we can send it. The expected total is, right now, is $354,321.87. That's $354,321.87, and that's for all of them. Yes.
And that's split up 354 between all those different accounts. Part of that's
Correct.
parks construction, drainage, street construction. Right. Gotcha.
Tax exempt,
Okay.
worry about it. But it is all in this calculation, which I can cover.
Which I'm assuming the main part is the drainage.
Yeah. The one we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
We do. Okay, do you guys have any more questions for Mr. McBride?
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming all the way from Little Rock. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Optimus Park. I've worked 2 years trying to get this land freed up from the state because of a parks grant we got in 1991. They have finally let me do a property land swap for this, and so now that property is opened up. I would like to look at selling it. This is still just in the discussion phase, and Rebecca and I have to look and see what that process will be. We do have some interested parties. So do you guys have any questions? Would you want to put it up for sale?
What do we have to swap? Just wondering.
Oh, we swapped, for the new ball fields.
Mayor Square.
We swapped
Okay.
Mayor Square, yes. Yes.
As public use,
In
park
perpetu-
space
yes, in
versus
perpetuity.
Optimus Park. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And we just put that for sale like any property?
That's what, I don't know yet. That's what, I've asked Rebecca to help me with. Now, we have a few interested parties, that are interested in purchasing Optimus. There's a gentleman that's bought some property next to it that is interested. He's approached me several months ago. We have a couple here today that are possibly interested, and, the school has also reached out to me just to know what we're gonna do in that process. So, since I don't know what that process looks like to sell the property,
Didn't normally, I forgot what I was saying. Go ahead.
How much land is it?
yeah, 17 acres.
Fairmont,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. I just wanted to see if you guys wanted to move forward in looking at that.
What are we doing with it at the moment?
Nothing right now.
There's this
There's some ball teams that are using it for practice,
There's a community garden.
and there's 2 farmers that are using it for a garden. Yeah, there's only 2.
How many has there been in the past?
We took over, I want to say.
8 or
I
9?
wanna go off who actually attended the meeting.
Right.
There was never more than 10. And I believe it's 2 years ago that we took over from the co-op.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a notice out there, had the gardeners show up, I think about 9 showed up that night. And then next year, I think 3 people showed up, and then this year, no one showed up. We got 2 phone calls, we got 2 that are currently out.
Did you say this is county land right now, but you're
This is city property. It's in the
in
county.
the county, that's what I
Yeah,
meant.
it's
like
not
in
inside the city limits.
Right.
And we could also look at annexing that in. I would think if that's our decision, we need to do that before we sell it.
Now, where is the city limits? Down that direction?
On the corner of, right where Biddle Road makes the curve.
Yeah, the city limits are the houses on South Street, and both the south side of South Street, back of the property. Those houses is the city.
So it wouldn't
That's
just,
crazy.
it would,
Crazy, isn't it?
Well, and
This
it would-
doesn't seem possible.
and it wouldn't be just getting the ball field, it'd be getting all that property into the city limits.
Yeah. Yeah. I had envisioned selling it to a land developer for housing, because we need housing. That's just my vision.
It doesn't benefit the city to have that annexed in, though, does it?
Only if we were gonna sell it and have,
Developed housing. Yeah.
development on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
And then that would be a reason for a builder not to buy it if it was annexed in.
Between the ball field, between Optimus land and the city. Between, I think it's
that is not part of the city?
just the private owner,
Gotcha.
that owns an area tract between the city limits and the property owner.
Right. I mean, I like the idea of developing it for either, you know. Yes, housing either, you know, I don't know if it's, and I mentioned to you, I don't know if that's something like the Heber Springs Housing Authority would get involved with that type of thing, if you would do that for, you know, senior citizens or apartment-style housing or whatever, but I certainly think that would be a big benefit to the community.
Well, I'd spoken to a developer just to see what that would look like, and they have to wait for a grant cycle to be able to do that.
Right.
Now, if that's the direction, I talked to Paul at the water department, and it'd be real simple to run water to the property, which I think would make it more valuable. He said he would do it at cost.
So the water that's at the community garden, is there a well there right now?
No, I think it's a real small line that's tied into what's coming off of 10th Street.
But not a main?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right.
The water hose line first is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does annexation have to go before people to vote, or is that, we haven't done it in a long
I
time?
know.
It has been a long time, and
Yeah.
I haven't looked, I've got all the materials to read up on how we do that, but
I think there's
pretty
two ways.
straight, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it can go out to a vote, or the people in the the section could always come to us if they want to do the annex in. So we would have to reach out to them. Huh?
That would be the cheapest.
Well, yeah, we just have to talk to the neighbors.
Well, right now, we just gotta go to one guy, right? He said there's one guy that owns 8 acres.
To get water, we'll
Oh.
have to get easement from him
Annexation.
to annex
3 or 4 properties.
3 or 4 property owners.
Quick question on water. The 2-inch water main that runs down South Street,
Okay.
that's what cities right now in that area.
Right.
South 8th Street has either 8 or 10-inch water main that actually feeds to Mountain Top Park.
Okay.
This was down through there. We've already spoke to the property owner on South 8th Street, that is pending getting an easement put in place. If next that, that will give the water department the option of putting maybe mains all the way back down Bill Road to the fairgrounds.
Okay.
It's still over the done, probably really long.
Okay.
We just thought water not going to that unless it's water department. Multiple access down to the.
Right.
I think we need to look at annexation first, especially when it's 3 or 4 property owners. Oh, that's just fine.
What is the overall, I mean? Nothing.
You lose your hereafter.
No, I'm just trying to figure out what comes first, the chicken or the egg. You know what I mean? Is it better if it's annexed and then
Yes.
we sell it to a builder?
Yeah.
That's always better?
It's gonna make the property more valuable.
Okay.
Because then that property can also have city services, utilities, like water, all that kind of stuff.
Well, what is that cost though, to get it to that point, even if we're doing it at cost? Any idea?
It wasn't a whole lot. I'll have to get with Paul again, 'cause I don't know what that number was, but it was very reasonable.
I mean, we're still talking about selling it, we're just saying, let's annex it first and then sell it.
Yeah.
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 And are we going to try to specify what it's like sold to a developer for the purpose of such and such, or can we even do that?
I don't know, I think we still need to do some digging. I don't know
Right.
if we need to put it up for sale for whomever,
Right.
or if we sell it to a developer that does something like PUD, it might need to stay in the city's name
Right.
Until it grants cycle.
until the grant cycle.
I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody making it cow pasture out there where the city doesn't have to care for it, but I think it's much more beneficial for the city if it's, reasonably priced housing or apartments or whatever for senior citizens, young families, whatever, whoever.
Become a data center.
Right. Yeah, we don't want somebody parking a data center right there.
Yes?
If it was annexed, the city's building codes and requirements are going to affect. Right now,
Yes.
the county does not have any building codes requirements.
That's
If we were to
That
sell
too.
it rather than annex, anything could be sold.
Right.
The city has to do it.
Yeah,
And if we decide to annex
Thank
later.
you, Ronnie.
If we decide to annex later after that.
thank you.
Then we don't have,
Control.
correct. Okay, so we'll look at what the process will be to sell it and getting it annexed in.
Okay.
Okay, next, I've got Young Men's business land. I thought that we might look at purchasing that for a retention pond for the FEMA project. I don't know that it is necessary at this point. Powell also still hasn't got the FEMA model back yet, that they needed. So I think we just let them go ahead and put it up for sale, and if it's something that we need to look at purchasing, we can do it at another time.
What are they wanting for that?
They want $250 for it.
It's been for sale for years, right?
Yeah,
Have they come down on the price over the years?
no. Gone up.
But it's in the floodplain, you can't build anything on it.
Correct.
Without it being built 10 feet high.
I still don't see any way that we're gonna be able to do the drainage improvements without something there. 'Cause there is no way we're not increasing flow into the creek faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean-
well, without
So
the
that
other
is-
model that Kyle's waiting on from FEMA, I don't know that
Right.
he has enough info to say, yeah, we should purchase it.
Right.
That's the only thing.
Ah. Yeah.
We're
No, I
waiting
certainly
on
would,
them.
yeah.
How many acres is that now, no?
12.
12 acres?
We're talking about one section of trying to get rid of some, less
I
to
know.
take care of, and
Having to buy it, yeah.
and then add some somewhere else. We got a bush hogger to take care of.
Just for a pond.
Right.
No, it's not. You
We could put the dog park down there.
Yeah,
Thought you
which,
put it down
which
here.
would probably be dry most of the year, yeah.
Still undecided.
Okay. I was about to say, I thought you decided that.
Well, we did, and we've got some other opinions, so we're trying to figure out what's best.
Well, you're always gonna have other
Oh,
opinions.
yes, we
on
are.
Where the dog
Oh,
park
we've gotten
goes.
off subject about the dog park. That's my fault.
Missed it, sorry.
That's okay. But anyway, that's really just information for you guys. Those last two things on the
Oh.
agenda. We don't have to vote on anything.
Okay.
Revisit the grant thing on the
Revisit.
trail.
Oh, yes, thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I know last time we talked about whether or not to let, well, the Greers Ray Lake Trail Council came and presented to us a grant proposal. We talked about, would the county help with some of that, whether it's labor or whatever. Apparently, the latest is the county is going to build the parking lot on Libby Drive and add a bike lane to Sulphur Creek Trail on Libby Drive to keep people off of the road, because that is obviously, if you've been on Sulphur Creek Trail, the most dangerous stretch is Libby Drive. And they have a wide enough easement there that when they are repaving that at some point later this year, what we were told from Joe Price was that the county is going to add a bike lane on the side of the road to make the trail safer there.
Understand?
The other parking lot that they had originally looked at was the one we talked about on Biddle that they presented here, and then one on Libby Drive, because that's the two places there's not very good parking there. It's already city-owned property right where the trail comes out and hits Libby Drive, and they are actually going to build that parking lot there. My understanding is soon, like next several months type of thing. So that way, when they get around to paving it, they can pave that along with the bike lane when they're paving Libby Drive. So, again, it's up to the council whether we still want to talk about the proposal for Biddle Road parking lot or not. But I think that one took away a lot of the argument we had, because we would be putting a handicap accessible parking lot on county property, but it is part of the trail right away that we already control. The county's actually putting a parking lot on city property, on that piece of property over there, and doing the labor and the paving and all of that. So, again,
Why are they not starting with the Biddle Road?
uh,
Why are they not starting their project on county property?
so I think since they're already planning to pave over there, they're already gonna have all the equipment and stuff in. My understanding was they wanted to do the gravel work now, so it has time to settle in the parking lot, so that when they're paving later in the summer, it's ready to pave also. I don't think the county was approached about doing the grant through the county.
That's what I was
Yeah, as far as I know. I did not ask that question to see if they were approached about doing the grant. But again, it's just something else to look I think a parking lot out there would be a great thing to have. I know this would be, basically, we'd be looking at funding this in the 2027 budget, because I think even in this grant cycle, the grant will be due later this month. Even if it gets awarded, I don't think the money's released until later in the year at the earliest. So, I mean, you're probably looking at, we'd have to budget it for 2027. I don't have the grant thing in front of me right now, but I know it was roughly $13,000 is what the city's share was, round numbers.
With their bid.
Yes, with the bid from Big Creek Contractors of clearing it, putting in the parking lot, paving it, ADA accessible trail to the trail, handicap parking spaces also, keeps people off Biddle Road and off the parking lot on Biddle that's eventually going to wash out by the side of the fairgrounds.
Add another 10 for engineer to get involved.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how all that works.
Now, didn't we leave off also with Joe for them to see about doing some fundraising?
So Joe is currently out of the country and doesn't get back till like right before our next meeting. And I think the grant application is going to be due maybe, I don't remember the exact date. Was it? Okay, so right after our next meeting. I don't think that there is a plan put in place for them to fundraise that money right now. I don't know if that's enough time for them to consider that option. Now, there was some talk about maybe some people helping out with that. I mean, there has been talk, which I'm on the Gers Ferry Lake Trails Council also, so, but about making like a Friends of the Trail group where people can support that, but it wouldn't be the kind of money that would be involved in. I mean, it'd be very minimal memberships if people wanted to support the trail for like $10 a year, $20 a year, or whatever. It wouldn't be the kind of numbers to be able to match an 80-20 grant.
And this grant is open every year.
It is.
So we can also look at, put that in our budget for sure. We can go ahead and get with an engineer and see what that cost will be for next year.
I think when it comes to the trail though, like the Trails Council is gonna have to have some kind of fundraising. I mean, if we're already putting in $25,000 a year
Yeah.
in our budget to go towards the trail,
Right.
honestly, I'm not willing to put a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
Especially because when we built it, we had to, take $250,000 out of the general account just to finish it. I mean, so we've already.
That was overage on a grant? Is that what that was?
That was overage on the mistakes that were made on.
The engineering side?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we wanted
Well, it was
to
to pave
asphalt,
for
if we
change.
wanted to asphalt the rest of it and get it finished, we had to pull money out.
Or it was
and
gonna
so-
stay gravel.
Yeah, or it was
Yeah.
gonna be gravel. So in my mind, I'm like, we have gone above and beyond, I feel like, for a
And-
little bit.
And we've
anyways.
hired another person.
What?
Remember, we hired another person.
Yeah,
For the
I mean-
maintenance of it?
Yeah.
and so it's just, we're already putting a lot of money
Yeah.
into the trail. I just feel like if they're gonna want to do some extras, it's gonna have to be like, we don't have anybody doing Spring Fest. Maybe, Rotary Club puts on the event in the fall, maybe Trails Council picks up Spring Fest or something like that. I mean, the last time Casey and I did it, we brought in $13,000. I mean, it could bring in some good money. So, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
A lot.
it's a
I've been
lot of
involved
work.
with the chamber before. I
Yeah.
understand.
So, but it might be something like that just an event
Yeah.
or something where they bring in the money
Okay.
to help with things like that.
And maybe they know it ahead of time so that then we can apply for the grant.
Right.
I'm along those same lines,
Right.
honestly.
So you would want the Trails Council to have basically have the 20% and say that they are going to contribute that towards a grant cycle request? That's what we're talking about?
I mean, seeing that it's available every year,
Right.
I
And,
don't know why we have to jump through hoops at the last second.
right,
Something we're not prepared for.
right.
And I would want something in the city. I mean, if I'm gonna build a parking lot, I mean, I'm gonna want it to be multi-purpose, you know, something that we could use in the city too, you know, just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense for us to build a parking lot out in the county.
Right. I mean, the only parking lot on it that is well, I guess there's two multi-use. They're both on Sandy Beach Trail. Because you have Vinegar Hill Boat Launch is accessible to the trail. And then the parking lot at the old hospital
Yeah. And there's
is
places,
multi-use.
there are safer places you could jump on the trail, right? Besides there, like,
Just depends. Like the Scott Street parking lot is gravel. So, I mean, it's,
Little bitty.
yeah, it's small. You can fit maybe 6 cars.
yeah,
And it is the fine gravel, so you could probably run a decent wheelchair on it.
yeah.
But the only paved parking lot, I guess, in the city, other than the two, Vinegar Hill and the old hospital, would be the one at, yeah, right by the cemetery. There's like 4 or 5 spaces there. It's funny, you go on a gravel road, but then the parking lot's paved. There's like 6 paved parking spaces, but you got to drive on the gravel road to get to them.
Yeah.
But that's the only paved in the city. Like when I walk the Libby Street section, I park at Brad Sneed's little Anglican church downtown and walk from there out and back. Because there's not a parking area at that end. Unless you're going to walk on Libby Street, and then or Libby Drive, and I'm not going to walk on that. I certainly wouldn't ride a bike on it. They get a bike lane there, it's going to be a huge help. Because you're literally people flying by.
Is that the hill?
No, the one from the bypass that comes in on the side
yeah.
there
Oh, yeah.
is sketchy to be on a bike on that section with people because they fly up and down that road. And they did put in a lighted flashing sign, which maybe helps a little bit, but still, I wouldn't ride a bike. I certainly wouldn't let my kids ride a bike there.
Okay, let's move along. Some people got to get back to work. Thank you, Pete, for bringing that up. I totally
Yep.
forgot it already. Okay, open mic. Does anybody want to address the council? Okay, if you could state your names for the camera and for whoever watches. And then turn and.
We just first wanted to say thank you to each of you for raising your hand to volunteer to be leaders in our community.
Oh, I thought you were saying we're volunteering for something. I was like,
Oh, no. We'll get there. We know it takes a community to raise the youth, and that's why we're here. Our number one objective in speaking to you today is in the best interest of the youth. My husband and I, we run a nonprofit called the Lakeside Sluggers here in the county. It is a youth program that we use baseball as a transformative tool to build young men that will invest into their community through community service, build character, and nurture leaders. Why is there a need for this in our county? Number one, Arkansas is number one in the nation for child sexual abuse. Number one, our community needs to combat this. We need healthy and safe programs for our youth. Number two, it's number 3 in the nation for childhood youth obesity. This creates a burden on our states in terms of health care and increases the risk of long-term disease. Number 3 is that we are number 3 in the nation for adverse childhood experiences, which are traumatic experiences ranging from physical abuse, physical neglect, and sexual abuse. Our youth deserve programs where there is accountability and it helps strengthen the family unit. When youth are in community, they thrive. And I have one question on that land transfer. Was that to change it from a recreation use to a non-recreation use for Optimus Field? Okay, because according to Terrence Young, who is the director of Outdoor Recreation State, it says a conversion process from recreation area to non-recreational use. If the city wishes to convert a grant-funded project area to a non-outdoor recreation use, they are required to replace the incumbent property with an alternative tract of land of equal size, value, and usefulness. Additionally, the replacement property cannot already be in use as an outdoor recreation area. This existing property would need to be appraised, and suitable replacement property would not need to be identified and appraised as well. So my question is to you, you said it was transferred over to the new ball fields. Is that not designated as an outdoor recreation use?
Heritage and Tourism
Okay.
signed off on that.
Okay, and what was the reason for the sign off? Because it violates what the procedures state.
Well,
It was part of the grant.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So we couldn't use it for other, but since they transferred it, then we could use it for
I think she's
anything else.
asking why did they let us transfer it?
Oh,
Because
we don't know that, but they did.
it should have happened.
Okay.
I am on the agreement with you that it should stay in that type of atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
But with that said, it should have been done when Mary Square was acquired.
Correct.
It should have been done then.
Okay.
And so that should be a fair swap.
That should be a fair swap.
So we replaced the 4 acres on Optimus Field, which is, it's 17 altogether, but the
Yes,
grant
ma'am.
only covered 4 acres with the, 45 that's out at the new sports complex.
Okay.
So it's also a much larger area.
It's a larger area for that. Okay, I will continue. We are here because we are concerned about the sale of Optimus Field. Currently, there are 3 baseball teams that practice there weekly. That's 124 foot traffic that goes through there. Not only do they practice weekly, they practice annually. Additionally, rec teams are there practicing currently now in this current season, and outside people in the community are utilizing it. We were told by the Parks and Recreation Director and Athletic Director there are no times available at the Heber Springs Sports Complex. Last week, we sent an email requesting 16 practice times, and there was only 1 guaranteed availability date. Additionally, we requested a porta potty and a trash can. Josh said he would get back to us after talking to you, ma'am, Mayor Griffin, to see your response, but we have not received a response on that as well. Our program was created because there is a need in our community.
Right, and as we're seeing, I've been a coach out there since I moved here, and I've recognized a trend of people moving away from Heber Springs Rec. All right, so this is kind of the reason why we've stepped up at this organization. One, to free up the burden on parents and families from paying so much money. I mean, it costs $100 here. We go to Greenbrier, pays $80, and we get better competition.
65.
Or 65, excuse me. The reason why, and this is not just my opinion, this is coming from parents that have come to me and are either on my team or have left, or they are going to leave after this season. Some of the reasons why they are leaving and they're not coming back. Lack of fundamental development, right? There's no consistency. Right? We get coaches, changing coaches every year. There's no consistency for these kids to grow in their fundamentals of one the sport, but 2, their growth of what we're trying to teach them. And then other things were being unprofessionalism, right? Going into communication on uniforms, rules, and et cetera. We can go on for days when we start talking about that. The stress it puts on the families when last minute changes come up for ball games or changes to things, right? Telling families there are 5 teams in the division when we know there's only 3 that are committed. So lying to them, telling them there's so many teams in there, so they will get away from the other division to come here, right? So that kind of statements are, families are done with that. They're not coming back because of that. And also we go into some of the quid pro quo type transactions that go on there where you do this for me and I'll give you this, right? The backdoor deals. Hey, I'll sweeten the deal, you know. It's a constant thing that keeps going on. People don't want that. They want transparency. They want something that is in front of them that they can follow those rules. They don't want to see Joe down the street getting a better benefit because he did something for them, right? It doesn't work like that. That's why they're leaving and they're not coming back. I mean, we can go on, and it's happening now. parents are calling me right now. Hey, do you have an age group team for this? Not right now, but we're going to try to work on it for you, because they're leaving and want to go into and have a consistency for their child. As we go into the fields and everything, the reason why Optimus Field is so important, and I wish it could be obtained. Right now, we are actually out there mowing it, right? We're out there weed eating. We're out there pulling the metals out of the field, dragging the fields and stuff. I am doing that personally, and I got other parents on the team that are doing it, and other teams are doing it. Trying to make it a better, trimming back and trying to get things done so we can actually have practice fields. That being said, we don't have any time, right? We've asked, and they've given us, those transactions. Hey, you should have came and played with us. I can't. That's the reason why our parents don't want to play for this program. All right, so they want an alternative source. We are that alternative source. So are these other two teams that are out there. We've asked, hey, we're a nonprofit, 501c3. A lot of people say, hey, we're a nonprofit too. No, we're actually a registered 501c3 through the state. Have everything, our corporation. We have a board just like this. We do meetings just like this, just like you guys do. So when we go to our trying to rent these fields or whatever, and we're willing to pay that, we put that in our budget to have that. And we're willing to pay for these fields of rental, but there's no time. Offering something that is not available, it's not available. We can't get it, right? But it started off as we're going to pay $50. We wanted a process. We want it written into like almost like a contract. $50 started off with, then it went to 25. Now it's at $12.50, right? So that continues to change. We want something in writing. If we were going to keep continuing to practice in Heber Springs without Optimus Field, we want something in
we were told originally that we could utilize the fields for free from Marshall. Then we asked for a contract because we have donors that we have to answer to about our budget. Then he came back and said $50. Then it was $25, and then now it's $12.50 for without lights. So we just want to know what is the actual amount you are going to charge a nonprofit to utilize those fields. But really, there are no fields available based on what your athletic director and your Parks and Recreation director told us.
For the sports complex?
Yes, ma'am.
Or Optimus Field.
No.
Oh, they told us we could utilize Optimus Field for free if we maintained it originally. That is what they told us. Then Josh came back and said, he emailed us, or he called Lucas and said that we could mow it. Our parents.
Well, no, he said that they can provide, city can provide mowing, and he asked at this time. I said, right now we are mowing it, and then we'll come back with it when we need to have it mowed. So we contacted him just recently to try to get it mowed.
And we talk to our parents and everything, and this is what they tell us. They say they want nothing to do with the city, and that's very unfortunate. They said they are so done with the Parks and Rec program here. They just don't even want anything to do with it, and we don't think that's right at all. I think you guys.
How many teams are you running?
I'm sorry, what?
How many teams are you running?
We're running one, sir.
And what age group is that?
We're running, well, because we're running a 10 and under team right now.
And who are the other two
It's
teams?
Tyler McCarty with the Banana Balls,
They're 11.
and they're 11, or no, 12U is the Banana Balls. And then the Heber Hustlers are the 9U. No, sir, they utilize a field that we don't, but they maintain that as well.
How many fields are at Optimus? 4 fields?
5 total, if
5,
you're
there's
counting
5
the T-ball
T-ball,
that is now being utilized as the garden.
Okay, so 4 fields in the garden, and 2 of the 4 are being used?
Yes, sir. So there is a need in the community, and that's what we're asking, because now we need to go to our donors. We have 22 donors. 19 of our donors are here in Heber Springs. So when I go to them for this upcoming season, or if you guys decide to sell the property, I have to explain to them why I need $5,000 to $10,000 more annually to either find a place for us to play, or we're gonna have to build ourselves a field. That's our
Is
option.
your organization interested in purchasing it?
Honestly, sir, we do not have that type of funds. We would love to, but that brings us to our next couple of question is how much was that land sold for to the city of Heber Springs back in 1991 and 1995?
What bearing would that have?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What bearing would that have on anything?
It has a bearing, sir, because Optimist Club International is a 501c3. There are specific IRC, Internal Revenue Codes, and IRS codes that limits how property is transacted. So if a nonprofit gifts it to the city cannot go and sell it for profit. There are IRS tax codes you guys need to look into regarding that.
Now, I'll talk on some of that too.
Yeah.
So like she's saying, a nonprofit could absolutely sell, like I could sell some of my assets, right, that belong to our organization. But that sale has to be at fair market value, right? We can't say, here, $10, and, it's a gift, right? So those stipulations that come with that property goes back to what the original intent was for that property. That original intent goes back to their articles of incorporation that they have written for that action of what their assets are used for. So same for me, like if having the same mission field, if my assets, and I'm trying to, like if I bought land and wanted to sell to you, I would have to make sure one of my board agreed with it, which there was none. We talked to the president, there was no resolution for that. But going to that, that's problems that you guys are dealing with right now. Handing that asset over, the code of it, somebody has to pay tax on it. We haven't been paying taxes on it for so long. Now, the city obviously doesn't pay taxes on some of these things, right? But those stipulations go well with it. Right? There's still some added stipulations. And the only person that in the state of Arkansas that can guarantee that sale is actual legal binding sale is the Attorney General. So I would actually probably.
The YMBC chief? I don't know about any of that you're speaking of.
And
But I do know that when the Optimists got rid of it, they could not take care of it. They went defunct.
It
They
doesn't
didn't want
matter,
anything to
sir.
do with it.
It's a legal binding document. That's why they filed their articles of incorporation through the city, the county clerk's office. And we pulled that when they filed that in 1984 when it was done. But the reason why we're asking that is because we went back through and we pulled all the deeds from the property. When you have deeds that are on record, they will have a deed stamp on it that shows what taxes were paid and what the sale was, what the property was sold for. When the property transaction occurred between Optimist Club International and the city of Heber Springs, there was no stamp on there. So we're asking, was it bought by the city for $10? That's what we need to know, and nobody.
We want to know if it was fair market value.
Fair market value.
That's the question, because if it wasn't fair market value, it has to go to Attorney General. It needs to be contact them and make sure that there's a legal aspect, that there's land transfer from a nonprofit to a city. Was gifted, was it at fair market value? They want to know all those things, because those asset transfers are something that we need to look at and make sure it's legal. Our agreement,
It is. Well, I'm going to say we're going to have to look into some of these things, as I've told you before. And it was also my understanding from, I think, last week that you guys were going to use the sports complex. You guys had agreed.
No, ma'am, there's no availability. We set them 16 times, and they told us there's only one guaranteed time. So
I do agree that there needs to be, and bring it to us if you need to or whatever, but like if you're gonna rent it for $50, rent it to $50 to everybody. I've had this conversation with y'all a couple of times, as I've had people call me about it.
We have it written down in the contract.
Okay. No, I'm just saying a couple of years ago when we first started this, because this was one thing we've dealt with this with the soccer There was another soccer program as well. We didn't know how to deal with that, so now they are using the fields, but they pay for them as well. And maybe it just needs, I don't know, maybe it needs to be a contract like we have with the school.
We have a field rental agreement.
I don't know.
That is $50 per light. It's 30 without lights. Because they are 501c3, just like we treat everyone else for 501c3, so there's no special treatment. It is 1250. However, this time of year, all of our ball fields are busy because it's practice season. And next year, we'll have games Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, from 6 to 7:30. There are not practice times available on the field. However, one of their players also, an employee, who actually works within the parks department, and is pretty open about the conversation with that. There's obviously several soccer fields out there that someone could use. One of the issues that they're having out there is one, obviously, there's not basketball facilities out there, and obviously taking care of the field. Me as a parks director, I look at this as a field, I'm sorry, I know we're going to do that. But that's an unused park. Optimus Park is an unused park. We got two teams that, they're saying 3 teams, but it's the same coach.
No,
How many-
it is
how many
3 teams, sir.
How many
It's-
teams are in your
That's a
9U?
lie.
So
Okay.
there's 3, Tom McCarty is the coach of both, Bananas and
So how many teams are in 9U?
off the top of my head, I do not.
There's
Okay,
three.
let's not,
There's
let's not,
Yeah,
let's not get into this.
So it just need, all I'm saying is it does need to be in writing, which if it is, that's good.
It is.
Yeah.
We don't do that
Right.
Friday night, 12:50 p.m. They obviously.
Email with all the guys, yeah.
Yeah, so I understand that there are soccer fields, there are other open spaces out of Optimus Park that are maintained continuously with trash and bathrooms that they're doing.
And I think that everything that y'all have said is definitely gonna go into consideration when we're talking about these fields. This was not a final decision that
And-
we're
No,
gonna
that's
sell
what-
it. Like,
The-
this
The
was,
thing is, like, what I'm saying is, he told me over the phone
That it was.
that was going to be sold.
no, this was the first conversation that any of us have had
Right,
about
but
it.
this is not, he's not the only one that we've had this conversation with. There's a reason why we're here and we started digging into this, because we have city employees telling us that you guys already basically made the decision, right?
But
It's going to be
inaccurate.
sold.
Inaccurate.
You did
I
say that.
understand that.
correct?
I understand it's inaccurate. I understand that. But we have to understand that there's people that are receiving that information, and now we gotta make decisions for planning it out. That's the reason why we're up here. I know it's over 3 minutes, and we're boring you guys with this, but
It's not
No,
boring,
it's
it's
just
not
the rules
boring,
we have
it's just.
set in place.
I know,
If
but
you
can we,
want to
can
talk
we
longer, you
extend
get on
those
the
3
agenda.
minutes though?
You get on the
How do we
agenda.
get our point across then if we have a 3-minute
I-
Get on
limit?
the
I think you very
I-
well.
I'm sorry, y'all. It takes more than 3 minutes.
Well,
and
you get
they-
on the
and they-
agenda.
Okay,
You don't
listen.
do open mic.
You've had that time,
do
you've sent
too.
us for 4 requests, we obviously have to do some work, digging, even if we do sell a property, nothing is set in stone yet, let us do that, let's get that request to you,
Yes, ma'am.
and we can go from there. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to Josh, my office door is always open.
Oh, I have no
There's-
problem talking
you,
about it.
you can reach out to any of the council members here, whatever you feel comfortable with,
Absolutely.
as we move forward.
It's just about the children. That's ultimately why we're here. We're here for the kids.
Yes, ma'am, thank
That's
you.
why we're here.
Yes,
Thank you.
We understand. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Would you care to say anything in,
I mean, just if we want to address and see, now this to me is one of those things that should be all kind of conversation about everything. I can address the council, if y'all like me to, if I don't want to, that's.
just wanted to give you the opportunity if you wanted to.
We're in a situation, this is not unique to, this is not unique just to Heber Springs. This is kind of how it happens in a lot of communities. What happens is some kids play in our league. I know, Andy, I'm the kind of rely on you just a little bit here because I know your son plays a high level of travel baseball. My son does as well. What happens is kids play rec ball. They select for an all-star team when they're 8, 9 years old. Then all of a sudden that coach kind of forms, and those families like each other. They played that tournament in all-stars. They create their own individual travel baseball team. As you know, and I know, Andy, an A-level rec ball team is not the same as a major rec ball team. We have a lot of people in the community right now that they're doing A and AA teams would benefit probably from playing rec ball. But instead, whether it could be their own reason, whether they feel it's unprofessionalism, whether they feel it's this or that, whatever, they decide to stay together and do their rec ball. So it takes teams out of the rec league. So travel, that's the bad thing about travel baseball is it takes low-level players, if you will, out. And when I say lower level, all I mean is
just A players, just not as skilled yet as what a major team would be. So if you go to these tournaments, that's what you look at. You look and see there might be 20 teams in a A team level, maybe 15 teams in a double A, but there's only about 5 or 6 major teams in the state, would you say, approximately? So that's kind of how that works. So at the end of the day, you have parents and they're trying to do stuff for their kids and it's beneficial, but at the end of the day, they don't necessarily have to play travel baseball. And at the end of the day, when you're traveling to either Cabot, Conway, or Memphis, like I know Andy has in the past, or I have almost every weekend, it's one of those deals that this is like a luxury item by playing in this travel baseball world, okay? That being said, obviously in the community, we're trying to give them the best opportunity they can. They can use fields. We do have a low number of 9 and 10-year-old teams. So what we do is we won't allow a major team to come in and play in our league because that major team's going to beat our teams 25-0 in 2 innings. But once we kind of started discovering that these are A and double A teams, we extended that invite and said, hey, you can keep your team together and still play in our leagues in what we'll call an out-of-conference game. We were told by the Sluggers that they had already accepted something and they were too busy, not able to do that. We were trying to work out deals, obviously, in that way to trying to just get more games for our teams that we have. We have worked with Valonia and I believe Pangburn as well that will be working in these non-conference games, if you will, just trying to make sure that there's a value there. We know how expensive all sports are and everything like that, so the cost has gone up, but the reason why that cost went up also is we're not going to do gate fees anymore, and we've discussed that over the last 2 or 3 years. I think since 2001, we've gone up from, I believe it was $45 to $100. We don't look at any more cost increase. Saw a statistic the other day that said travel baseball is not travel baseball, but baseball in general has increased in over 70% since like 2001. It's an expensive sport. You got to have a glove, cleats. It's not just like a soccer ball or just a basketball. I mean, like you got to have a bat. You got to have all this a bag to carry that. So it's an expensive sport. So we're doing the best that we can, but this is not unique that we're an all-star team gets selected in rec ball, and then all of a sudden they decide to go and play in these travel tournaments. And you can still do both. Like my kid plays travel baseball, and he's still in our league. Like I mean, it's still an option to do both, but not everybody wants to deal with it, whether that be, like I said, their reasonings or not. So appreciate letting me try to defend myself there. Well, okay. I'll say this real quick. And Luke and Lee, I love you guys. I think you guys are awesome. My kids play for you. I love you guys. But the way I've coached travel baseball teams for years, and when you go, I feel like, my opinion, when you go that route, you take it upon yourself to find your own practice facilities. Because we do. Like I've done that for years.
We're not travel baseball. We're a recreation.
We play in Greenbrier.
We play
Right.
recreation.
Right.
They keep saying, that's what I'm saying, I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a difference between somebody that just plays rec ball and somebody that plays travel ball. We don't play travel, I just asked you to say, we play one tournament once a month just to give them that experience, give them a little extra on site. We play rec ball in Greenbrier.
Okay.
We
So
play
is
rec
there
ball-
not a practice time in Greenbrier then? Since you're a part of their league?
They ask if
Absolutely
we want
can.
to.
Like to eliminate that drive and getting over there, we decided that we could practice here because everybody's close by. Right? We've got options where we may be able to go practice here and there, and we have to travel all around this area right here just to practice. Right? Just to practice. And try to find those opportunities. And we do. Obviously, Optimus Field is there, and we've been utilizing that from that aspect. But we're not a travel game. So we are a recreation. We play Searcy recreation. We play Greenbrier recreation. We're trying to find the right fit because these are the places that will accept our teams to play. Not at last minute.
Well, as I said.
Oh, okay. Andy, can you go ahead and finish your comment?
No, I mean, that's really it. And I didn't, maybe have a better understanding what your guys' intentions are, but it seems to me it's just a scheduling, logistical issue more than anything else right now that needs to get ironed out.
And also the legality, if you guys can legally sell that.
I know, but that's something we're just at preliminary discussions. It's not really there yet. I mean, it just seems like you guys need to work out. I'm sure like you are, work out times with Josh and Marshall practice. I mean, that's not good.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody have anything else? Okay.
make a motion, we go home. Go
Adjourn.
back to work.
Second.
Thank you, thank you.